Hey there everyone, I'm Lauren, an APQS sales representative and educator, and I wanted to show you a quick ruler tutorial today. So we're going to divide up a 6-inch sashing, and we're going to evenly divide that up by 6 inches. So we're going to have 6 by 6 inch blocks, and I'm going to use one of my most favorite rulers, some quilted pineapple curved rulers, and I'm going to use that to show you how to make a wonderful arch design. So we'll divide up our space and we'll learn a little bit about how to use rulers in the meantime. So a couple things with rulers before we begin and get started. One, rulers need to have several markings on them so that you can use them. Sorry about the lights, guys. So that you can use them to kind of gauge your spaces. They're going to have either markings along the edge, which you can measure out and match up in 1/4 inch and 1/2 inch increments, which can be fantastic when you want to measure and mark right at your quilting machine, or you want to have those 1/4 inch increments that go across so that you can measure depth as you're quilting with your rulers, which I'm going to show you how to use a little bit today. Okay, and my most favorite is when your rulers start at when those markings of those 1/4 inch spacings, they do the math for you. So they start at 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, 1 inch, 1 1/4 inch, and so you have to think a lot less when you're done. And of course, if you can get some awesome degree or diagonal lines in there, that can be really fantastic for being able to kind of manipulate your ruler so that there is less marking time being spent at your machine and more time actually quilting and playing. So it's fantastic. So we're going to use a combination of a straight edge. You'll find that I'm using mine with my ruler with a handle. My wrist is acting up, so it really helps to make sure that I'm kind of ergonomically holding it and my wrist stays nice and straight. There's not a whole lot of weird bending that happens because that's what hurts my wrist. And then we'll get to using the quilted pineapple flex curves. So let's go ahead and take a look. All right, we're going to have a fantastic time marking and playing with this today. So what I've done is I've taken a 6-inch by 24-inch rotary ruler, and I basically drew around the outside of the rectangle. So I know that I'm going to have a 6-inch wide sashing, and it's going to be 24 inches across. Then I flipped that ruler around perpendicular, and I marked 6 inches, 6 inches, 6 inches all the way across. All right, so I have before you a quilted pineapple number 15 ruler. I usually like to use the 10 because it's more circular and you kind of get more drama with your arches in terms of them kind of being like out and fluffy. And I'm going to use my stunning straight edge ruler with a handle so that it's easier for me to hold and reposition, and I'm not angling and tweaking my wrist like I would if I were sit down quilting. There's no harsh movements with my wrist. So with my ruler, I hope that y'all can see this. With my quilted pineapple, I have a 90, I have a 45 degree, and I've got these 1/4 inch markings going from the edge down. So we know that when we're using our ruler, the edge of the ruler until the needle is about 1/4 of an inch, all right? So the edge of your hopping foot to your needle is about 1/4 of an inch. So as you're quilting with your ruler, when you stitch, it's going to stitch 1/4 of an inch away from where that ruler is sitting. Now, if I want to increase that amount, what I'll do is I'll put that first line on a registration line, so that I know that when I stitch from here until that where my needle is, where my needle stops, okay, which would be about right here, it's about 1/2 of an inch away from the edge, because I did 1/4 inch from the needle to the foot, and I did 1/4 of an inch from the first registration line to the edge of the ruler. So this plus that equals 1/2 of an inch. If I do 1/2 of an inch on my ruler by going to the second marked line to my needle, okay, so that's 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/4 inch, that's 3/4 inches all the way across. And I want to make sure that you have a good understanding of that, because when we do arches, that is how I gauge my space. And oftentimes I will line up either one of these 45s or this 90 in conjunction with one of these outer curves so that I know that my measuring is going to be consistent. So first, let's go ahead and stitch, and let's stitch out our border design just to get our ditch set. Tack off our threads. We're going to use, I love my new handles. We're going to use the ruler. We're going to line up our ruler 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the line, because that's where our needle is going to stitch. So we're going to eyeball it. and then from in front, 1/4 of an inch away. Stop and reposition your hands. When you're using rulers, the power position is exactly where your fingers are. So if when I'm quilting that needle gets past where my fingers are, it can start to push and skew my ruler, okay? So I'm going to line this up 1/4 of an inch away. I'm going to go past my hand. I'm going to stop about right there because I'm about an inch past where my fingers are, and any farther that ruler is going to start to move, which is not the goal of what I'm doing right now. Okay, line it up 1/4 of an inch away, 1/4 of an inch away from the bottom. I always stop with my needle down. Alright, so my ditch is successfully stitched. So now I'm going to switch out, and keep in mind too, you guys can't see this, I didn't mention this earlier. When you're using rulers, you need to use your ruler base. So it's a large acrylic table that you're going to put on your machine that's going to allow you a larger platform, so when you're pushing down with the rulers, you can push flat across the entire thing because of where that table base goes. Whereas if I were using this ruler and I was only using the size of my throat, as my machine gets down to the other side, what's going to happen is that ruler is going to pop up. It could go under my needle, over my foot, and I could break a needle shaft. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to line up this arch ruler 1/4 of an inch away from my top middle line. So I've marked my 6-inch blocks, and I've marked a middle registration line so that all of my points end up in the same area, and I'm going to line up my ruler. And remember, I said I like to use those 45-degree marking points, so I'll line that up with my ditch so it's touching here, and then I will just pivot my ruler to the top so that it's 1/4 of an inch away, and then I'm going to go ahead and stitch. And this way I know that as I'm stitching arches, I'm not using a different part of the curved ruler to get a different part of the arch, and they're all going to look really uniform when I'm done. And I don't have to mark them out ahead of time. Stop, reposition your ruler, and we're going to reposition it to where we have that 45-degree marking line at the bottom, which you can't yet see, and it's going to be 1/4 of an inch away from my first 6-inch designated line. So right here, that 45-degree line stops on my ditch, and it's 1/4 of an inch away, maybe I should go a little bit in, from where my needle needs to stop at my 6-inch designated line. Didn't quite make it, it's okay. But that's going to keep my arches consistent. Now, if I want to continue to stitch, I'm lucky because I have this wonderful curve that has the same degree curve on the outside as on the inside. And so I know that I can use either the outside edge or the underneath edge to get the same results. If I'm using a ruler and we've got marking lines, okay, on the bottom, when you flip it over, you'll notice that if you move your body side to side, if you put one of your, so like go ahead and practice putting your middle marking line on a designated stitch line and with your ruler upside down, and just move your body side to side. You'll see that if your head is in one position, it is straight in line with your designated marking line. If you move your head to the left, your marking line on your ruler is going to be just to the right of your actual designated line. If you move your head to the right, the marking line on your ruler is going to be just to the left of your designated marking line. So flipping your rulers upside down does not give you good accuracy for actual quilting. So with that said, we're going to flip it the right side, okay? And we are going to use one of our designated marking lines. I'm just going to use the 3rd one, and I'm going to line it up with my arch at the top. And I'm doing this because it allows me to measure and mark without, or to measure and stitch without actually having to mark, okay? So we're lining up that 3rd line with our arch, Okay, and I am just maneuvering my ruler to be 1/4 of an inch away from the edge, and it's always less than I think it is. Okay, then we'll do it again. 3rd line will line up. And again, if you want it to be really consistent, you could try using maybe the middle. But because I'm doing kind of the edge, we'll just keep going with that. Okay, and then we're going to the same place. So we'll go ahead and use the outer edge, 1/4 of an inch away. Okay, and then we'll do it one more time. Make sure your rulers have grip on them so that they're less likely to move as you're stitching. And then if you're going to do a fill of some kind, you could do that now. Make sure you get into the right ruler section here. And then you'll just continue. Ruler to the inside, 45 line up, have it 1/4 of an inch away from the top, and stitch. Thank you so much for joining us today on this wonderful ruler work tutorial. I hope you'll pop back to the APQS YouTube channel and you'll click the like and subscribe button so that you can come and look at more of our videos and just show your support for APQS. Let them know that you love these tutorials that are coming out. Be sure to share on your other social media channels and your Facebook groups and with anybody else who likes to quilt and sew. Have a wonderful day, y'all. Thanks for popping by. Happy quilting. Bye.